Welcome to Lake and Bethel. We extend a special welcome to our video audience. You know, this past couple of weeks I've been talking with some of the higher ups in the Reformed Church about different things, and one of the old boys come to me and he says, "I don't know how you survived 30 years in Muskegon." And I responded by saying, "I don't know how I survived it either. It just happened and it went by so fast." And that's a good thing. But I said, one of the things that I have decided about 10 years ago is I'm not going to preach anymore. I'm not going to write sermons. I'm going to be a Bible teacher. I primarily teach the New Testament, and that's worked for me. Now we're going to extend that into Wednesday night Bible study. I'm going to do one called Merit to Mercy. It centers on the teachings of Paul. You know that Paul and Jesus are the two people who primarily taught us about Christianity. And this one's going to center on Paul. It's going to meet for 6 weeks on Wednesday night. We'll open it up with pizza. And that's why I need everybody that wants to come to that to please sign up for it in the entryway. There's a sign-up sheet so that we know how much pizza to order. Now, if you are watching this online, I've heard from a few of you on that who would like to come, just call the church office and let us know you're coming so that we're sure to have enough pizza because, got to have that pizza. So if you don't mind, just call or email the church and let us know you're coming. And today we are going to talk about how to change your karma. And that's always an interesting subject. Those of you who know me well know that I like American history. I like all kinds of history, but I particularly like American history because it lets us know how we got to where we are today. And certainly the 20th century had a lot of defining moments. And what I enjoy doing is reading about the presidents of the 20th century. I'm going to talk about one today, and I'm not making a political statement. I'll never tell you how to vote. I'll never tell you anything like that. But I want to talk about one of the presidents of the 20th century who happens to be one of my favorites, and it's this fella here. It's Franklin Roosevelt. Now, I've been fascinated by him because he became president during the Great Depression as Hitler was coming to power. That's fairly recent history. I mean, Hitler died just 10 years before I was born. So it's fairly recent history. And here's this guy who gets put into power right as that's all happening. That had to have been a tough job. And he got us involved in World War II. There's very little debate that without his pushing the United States to make weapons of war, that Hitler would have won without the U.S. intervention. So that's kind of an interesting thing to look at. Now, he was stricken with polio at age 39, so he spent most of his latter years in a wheelchair. He picked up polio before the polio vaccine was out and did that. That's pictured here. He's with his dog and one of his granddaughters. And that's how he spent most of his time in the White House, was in that particular chair. Now, what fascinates me about him is his health. As good an optimist as he was, and he was really good at sowing good seed, planting good things, he just didn't pay a lot of attention to his health. He was a chain smoker. And according to one of the sources that I read, his favorite food was a hot dog. So you can see, how that all worked. He had incredibly high blood pressure. You know how your top number is supposed to be 120? Well, his bottom number was 140, and the top was always in the 200s. They didn't have medication for blood pressure in those days. And he had congestive heart failure. This next picture was taken the day before he died. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage. He just said he had a bad headache and went to bed and slept away. He was 63 years old when he died, which seems awfully young. But maintaining his health, his personal health, he just did as necessary. Now, I wish that he would have lived longer because I liked the way he was leading. But it shows that no matter how much we try to take care of our health, eventually age does get us. Cancer and aging, all those things do get us. But we can make health decisions that make things better for us. We can do things that make it better for us. I have an app in my phone called MyFitnessPal, and it gives you a program of how many calories to eat. And the most amazing thing happens. If I follow it, I lose weight. But there's a big if there. I don't follow it very often, and so then it doesn't work. But it's an amazing thing. If you pay attention to how many calories you take in, you lose weight. Same with information, how it affects our mental health. When I watch Yellowstone and watch the antics of Beth Dutton, for instance, those of you who are Yellowstone fans, I don't feel very good when I'm done watching that, because I think, ooh, she's kind of an interesting person. But as I was reading the Roosevelt biographies and reading particularly some of the things he wrote, like his famous statement, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, I felt pretty good. See, your mental health has a lot to do with what you take in. We often harvest what we plant. It's the law of the farm. It's we reap what we sow. Not always. Sometimes hailstorms can come along and take care of our crop for us. But most of the time, that holds true. You greatly improve your odds of getting a good crop of corn if you plant corn. As simple as that sounds. It greatly improves your odds if you do that. If you plant complaints, you get more to complain about. Because those little buggers multiply. And they come into your life and they grow. So the more negative you are, the more you complain about, the more you display ingratitude to God, the more you get to complain about. And if you plant gratitude, you get more to be grateful for. Think about how you felt just a few minutes ago when we were thanking God for being born American. It lifted you up. It felt good to be grateful. And the more you're grateful, the more you have to be grateful back. And you see that in so many of life situations. Notice what happens when you're just nice to people. Most of the time, they're nice back. When you treat people the way you want to be treated, they treat you that way. It's amazing. And notice what happens when you do your job well. You get personal satisfaction. You get peace of mind. Often you get financial rewards. Often you get job security. And if you don't do your job well, things don't go as well. Notice what happens when you meet your days with grateful optimism over angry pessimism. Yeah, I like the Shell station down the road here, and I've been getting gas there many times, but I think the employees there are required to say to you, "Have a nice day." And I am not a morning person, okay? I think we should have church services beginning at like 3 p.m., because I'm not much of a morning person. But if I'm there and it's early in the morning, they'll say, "Have a nice day." And I have actually said to them a few times, "Nah, I've got other plans." And, sometimes that just happens. Then you have another miserable day. Or you can say, "Let's see what we can do to make today better for everybody." Self-centered days are miserable days. Service days are good days. When you plant to the self, you harvest weeds. When you plant to God by serving, you harvest satisfaction and peace. So today's passage holds a key to a good life. And the passage assumes that you know Jesus. It assumes that you are familiar with him and want to serve him. It's from Galatians chapter 6 and then a short passage from Matthew 13. Now, first, Galatians chapter 6 tells us this. It says, basically, don't mess with God. It says, don't be misled. No one makes a fool of God. What a person plants, he will harvest. The person who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others, ignoring God, harvests a crop of weeds. All he'll have to show for his life is weeds. But the one who plants in response to God, letting God's Spirit do the growth work in him, harvests a crop of real life, eternal life. See, thinking you can get by with messing with God is foolish. When a few weeks ago when we were in Mexico, I saw a couple of these vehicles. Now, it's hotter than the dickens there, and you saw these federal police vehicles with these guys with automatic weapons riding in the back. I saw a couple of them, and they're in full body armor, and it's like 105 in the shade, so you knew they were in a bad mood. Well, I didn't want to mess with them. Plus, they were driving Ford, so they had to be extra angry. But, it was just one of those deals. I didn't want to mess with them because my gun was in my car in Detroit. But that's kind of scary to see. Well, in the same way, you don't want to mess with God. Now, God is merciful and kind and loving and forgiving, but you don't want to mess with him because he's still God. He made the natural law of what you plant, you will harvest. If you plant just for yourself, you get nothing. If you plant to meet the needs of others, you get rewarded. Plant in response to God, and you get real life. But you have to remember that God cannot be fooled. And this is good news. So, don't get tired of doing good. Now, Paul added this. And while I read it, ask yourself why you think he added this. So let's not allow ourselves to get fatigued doing good. At the right time, we will harvest a good crop if we don't give up or quit. Right now, therefore, every time we get a chance, let us work for the benefit of all, starting with the people closest to us in the community of faith. Why do you suppose Paul put that in? And I think the answer to that is simple, because he knew that we all get fatigued doing good from time to time. So he reminds us that the harvest is coming, so work for the benefit of all. Now, how do you do that? Well, you put some good into everyone's day. And the good news is it doesn't take a lot of faith to do that. Jesus talked about it like this. He said, here's another illustration that Jesus used. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed planted in a field. It is the smallest of all seeds, but it becomes the largest of garden plants. It grows into a tree, and birds come and make nests in the branches. See, it starts out small. Just do one little thing, one little act of kindness, a little seed of faith, and then watch it grow, and one tiny selfless act will multiply. See, you can't defy natural law. If you think bad thoughts and do bad things are likely to happen. If you want to change your karma, you do good. You think good thoughts. And you do good things. And good things are likely to happen. If you're angry at the universe, if you're angry at God, things will not go well for you. If you're grateful for what you've been given, things go better for you. Not everything will go the way you want it to, because God cannot be manipulated. There's no magic potion to make him do things. But as a general principle, this works. FDR was very open about his faith. He said, I am a Christian and a Democrat. Now, imagine if people talk that way today. He was certainly an optimist. Still, he had terrible health problems most of his life. But he changed the karma for a lot of people. See, because when you bless those around you, you change everything. It means if you're a student, you make sure your teachers have a good day, and then you will have a good day. When you're driving down the road, if you make it better for everyone else on the road, you will benefit. Paul's just saying some very simple things here. Be nice, be helpful, and then your karma will change. See, this interesting thing, the New Agey and the prosperity gospel types, they all think that, well, this idea of what goes around comes around is their thing. And they attribute it to Eastern religions or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, it's a biblical principle. What goes around comes around. Paul said it. You will harvest what you plant. It's in Galatians. So if you're experiencing bad karma, if things just aren't going well for you, you can change things to a degree by planting better seeds. Jesus said this. He said, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's Matthew 7:12. It's not some strange religion. It's there in every New Testament that's ever been printed. So if you want to make good things come around, you bless rather than try to impress. You plant good seed. Years ago, when I was trying to figure out I wanted to stay on as a pastor or not, move on to something else, I wanted to come up with a life verse. One particular Bible verse that served as kind of a North Star for me. It was kind of a guiding thing, kind of a mission statement. And I looked around for that, and I stumbled onto Colossians 3:17. And it's become that North Star. It says, whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to God the Father. And some of you will want to get the urge to get up and walk out when I read that, because that's written into my benediction that I've been using for years. But here's the deal. You are called to represent Jesus to those around you. You are called to represent Jesus to the person sitting next to you. You are called to represent Jesus to the person who's a pain in your neck. You are called to be this representative of Jesus. And when you do, good things will come around. And that's a very important thing. You can change your karma. So, next week, I'm going to talk about this Ukraine thing. I'm going to base it on the essay of Nadia Bolz-Weber. You can, if you want, you can read ahead. You can Google her, and the title of the essay is Freaking Out, with a couple of other words that I don't dare say in church. But it's quite a good article, and I look forward to presenting that next week. To our video audience, as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.